Hey guys, it's Jada. So today I really want to specifically talk about neurotransmitters. Sorry, not neuron transmitters. Neurotransmitters. So I know we haven't finished the thing about for Unit 1 yet, but I was really busy, so I kind of want to give you guys a little preview about like what Unit 2 is about. So Unit 2 is basically about the biological psychology, which helps us understand all this different kind of mental diseases and why they're like that. So these are the 8 most common neurotransmitters. There are more than this, but for our sake, we only have to know these 8 for now, for beginners. So we have adrenaline, noradrenaline, dopamine, serotonin, GABA, acetylcholine, glutamate, and endorphins. So we'll specifically kind of talk about each of them specifically. So this PowerPoint is also by another classmate of mine, so we work on this together, so that's why it's not just me my name. There's also my classmate's name on it. So first we'll talk about adrenaline. So adrenaline, it helps neurons to communicate with one another, and it's also associates with our fight or flight mode, basically. So however, because epinephrine is mainly produced by adrenal glands and has function peripherally, it can also be considered as a hormone. So, and it's also called epinephrine, like what we said here. So, more about the fight or flight mode, like adrenaline, it's more focused on why your heart will start beat faster. Just imagine when there's like a lion or like some kind of bear about to attack you or eat you alive. That's because like there's more blood flow blood needed throughout the body to prepare for an attack, whether an attack or run away. So that's adrenaline's job. Noradrenaline is an organic chemical in the acetylcholine family that function in the brain and body as both hormone and neurotransmitters. The general function of norepinephrine or noradrenaline is to mobilize the brain and body for action. So basically it's kind of like adrenaline, but more focused on the concentration part. So I didn't mention in this earlier, some of the neurotransmitters can also be hormones. Like a lot of hormones, like we know, could be like neurotransmitters. So here's like the difference between adrenaline and noradrenaline. My classmate spelled this wrong, so it's one word. Adrenaline spreads the hormones, and noradrenaline is the neurotransmitter of the sympathetic nerves. And noradrenaline and adrenaline have different structures, although they kind of have similarly, but their structures looks different. This one's for noradrenaline, and this one is for adrenaline. So now we're going to talk about GABA, or gamma aminobutyric acid. Yeah, or GABA for short, which is also C4H9O2. You guys need to remember that. Just remember GABA is an amino acid that serves as the primary inhibitory neurotransmitters between nerve cells in the brain and spinal cord. So, easy way of remembering this, because this is really wordy. GABA's main function is your kind of like your education neurotransmitter. So that you just have to remember that. So GABA acts to slow or block certain nerve signals in the brain, sometimes reducing. Actually, no, sorry, my bad. GABA is the calming. Is a calming neurotransmitter. I'm thinking about like another one we'll talk about later. I think it's on the next slide. Reducing the feelings of anxiety. Yeah, this one is the educational and neurotransmitter that I'm talking about. And to be honest, I don't really know how to pronounce this. I think it's acetylcholine. So it's an abundant neurotransmitters in the human body is found in both central nervous system and the peripheral nervous system. So the name acetylcholine is derived from its structure. It is a chemical compound made of acetic acid and choline, and this is the structure. So now we're going to talk about dopamine, which, to be honest, is one of my favorite, and because I'm really interested in ADHD, understanding ADHD, so this is something that I'm interested in. So dopamine is associated with movement and reward system, and also associates with ADHD, or attention deficit hyper disorder. So this means that dopamine cannot be transmitted properly down the synaptic cleft, which is the space between the previous neuron to the next dendrite. We'll talk about this when we talk about the neural anatomy and stuff like that. To basically, it's like dopamine cannot transmit properly down to this thing here, and this thing is basically the dendrite of the next neuron. And the dopamine is basically reuptake from here, reuptake through the neurotransmitter reuptake pump, I think. Yeah. So we'll talk about that more in detail later. So just understand that basically how you have dopamine who can't go to the next neuron and went back into where they're not supposed to be, and that's ADHD. So, like I said, dopamine cannot transmit it properly down the synaptic cleft to the next neuron, but reuptake through the neurotransmitter reuptake pump, this thing. So, ADHD patients will need to take dopamine reuptake inhibitor, or DRI. It's exactly what it sounds like, is to stop dopamine from being reuptake through the pump and increasing the chance of the dopamine attaching to the next neuron. and transmit it properly. But the thing is, we never know if it's gonna work. For some ADHD patients, it's probably worse, and some probably will make them really better, and some doesn't have any change. It's because we cannot ensure that these dopamine will actually go attached to one of these dendrites. So we only can increase the chance. However, yeah, I mean, basically that's it. So serotonin, oh, I think I spelled it wrong. Serotonin is associated with emotion, happiness, a well-being, like basically is associated with emotions. And it's a hormone that stabilizes mood. Imbalance of serotonin can lead to depression, but at the same time, depression can also cause like imbalance of serotonin. So it can be both directions. So the same thing, depression patients can take serotonin reuptake inhibitor such as SRI to block the serotonin being reuptake through the reuptake pump. But different neurons, like, they have different kind of functions. So not all, how should I say this? Not all of these neurotransmitters will go to one neuron. It's actually more spread out, and some is in charge of the dopamine, some is for serotonin, others are endorphins. So we can never be sure like where it will take it. So next we have endorphin, which is associated with happiness and decrease the perception of pain. So basically a lot of painkillers we take probably have a lot of endorphin in it, so it kind of block our nerve from feeling the pain, basically. Okay, so oh gosh, did I say it wrong again? Okay, acetyl. Let's look at this picture because I feel like oh, I think I said it wrong okay. Glutamate is not associated with learning. It's associated with memory. I typed this wrong. I'm sorry about that. And formation, and it's also in charge of formation of neuron connection or neural networks. And it is the most common neurotransmitter in our nervous system. So this purple is the calming neurotransmitter, and this is excitatory neurotransmitter. So optimal balance of GABA and glutamate is the best. So if there's too much glutamate, it can cause anxiety, perseverating, restlessness, migraines, tics, and motor stereotypies. Yeah. So basically that's glutamate. So now we have learned all the 8 common neurotransmitters, and of course, like I said, there are more, but these are the 8 most common ones that we'll need to know for as a beginner psychology student. However, if you're going to college or university, or if your profession is psychologist, you guys have to definitely know more. But this is just a beginning to Unit 2.